Hello, a very good afternoon for all those who have joined me in this particular webinar, which is the 7 steps leading to world class standards. This is a game changer. It is going to be a leading edge, unique presentation, which is exclusively for Morocco. And I believe that if you use these steps, these are the building blocks to productivity. These are going to be the stay steps to progression. And I believe that this is going to change the whole face and the outlook of how you look at not only the global landscape, but also the internal alignment in your organization and making sure that the value pipeline is productive. So let's go straight into this particular webinar. Now, a little bit about me. I'm basically an MBA. I've got a few degrees. I'm an FCCA. I'm a FCMA, CGMA, CPA, which is Certified Public Accountants, fellow Chartered Certified Accountants, as well as an MBA in Finance. I've authored and developed corporate toolkits. Now, this is where it's interesting: progression to excellence, finance for directors, business fraud, achieving boardroom excellence. There's always something new and unique, and these toolkits have an edge. So this is something which has been authored and developed by me. I'm also the CEO and founder of Rent a Director. I'm a board advisor and corporate coach for many companies. I'm a director of the UK Policy Governance Association, and I'm a policy governance consultant. There are only just over 300 worldwide. I'm also a global partner of the Xylem Group. I've conducted seminars for many organizations, which include YPO, WPO, Ernst and Young, Steel Industry, and many various companies, which also included finance sector. I had people come from finance sector, energy sector, mining sector, pharmaceutical, and many other industries. So it's like a wide array of people who have had a deeper insight on some of my programs. And I conduct not only workshops and retreats, but also tailor-made workshops and retreats. So let us go straight into the 7 steps leading to world-class excellence. Now, before we go further, please make sure that you make a lot of notes and see that there's no distraction, because this is something very important for your growth and for the growth of your organization. So the first step is broken thread. Now, what do I mean by broken thread? Broken thread is more like something which has snapped. And in many occasions, when something snaps up, the complete value is sort of missing. So what do I really mean? It's basically disengagement. It's basically this distinction and this disengagement between board level, executive level, and the supervisory and management team as well. So the activity driven, and it doesn't matter which sector you come from. You could be in the service industry, or you could be in the manufacturing entity. It doesn't matter the sector, but what really happens is that connectivity between different departments is missing. So what do you really need to do? The first solution is clearing the fog. Now, let me give you an example. There was one particular organization where I was a board member, and I realized that one of the unit directors P&L, she was in charge of this whole P&L, but that connection was not there. So I went further and I tried exploring to find out exactly why she was not having this engagement. And it seems that she was too busy keeping on doing what she kept on doing without really uh, clearing this particular fog, as I call it. So the first step is clearing the fog, which means clarity in communication. Write that down: clarity in communication. One of the biggest problems that I have seen emerging in organizations, be it new, be it startups, be it small, medium, large organization, is the clarity in communication is not there. So there has to be this clean pipeline of communication. So please make sure that you have clarity in communication. So here's what I would like to do, because not only am I going, this is not only a training program, but I would like to give you some tools. So go back, revisit what has been communicated and look into what has been communicated. Look into what really aligns, and once you get that alignment in place, the broken thread, it's about mending this particular broken thread. So you need to work on that. So start working, revisit what has been communicated, and work towards building a clear, laid up foundation. The second solution is a rubber meeting the road. What do I mean by rubber meeting the road? Now, if you look at a car traveling on tarmac, that traction is there and the car is firm on the road. And that is the metaphor we require for organizations. You need to make sure that it is firmly grounded to whatever the value pipeline for your organization is. So here's what you need to do. You need to keep on engaging. You need to keep on narrating, and you need to make sure that you're always a step ahead of what is happening. So have have that clarity in communication, plus keep on having that dialogue, keep on engaging. Whatever has been required, that engagement has to be there, because your intelligence, your input, your insights are crucial to making sure that whatever recipe of discussion is in place is rich enough. So, rubber meeting the road, very important. And the final point I would like to bring forward is checkpoints. What do I mean by checkpoints? Now, here's what I want you to do: ask for feedback, have monitoring, look into that progress points. Because what happens is, and in one particular manufacturing organization, I remember that there was one particular assignment which one of the leaders had given, and what happened is that he did not follow up. And at the end of the timeline, when he asked for the report, it wasn't what he was even talking for in the first place. So this is not what he required in the first place. So you need to make sure that at every stage, at every interval, you have a close attention on what is happening. So you need to ask for feedback and make sure the progress is in the right track and the right road. So you both are on the same page of the same book, reading the same sentence. So I hope this particular first step is given you some insight as far as disengagement is concerned. Let's move to the second step, which is equally important, and that is, sorry, before we go to the second point, I just wanted to share a quote here. Form a habit to ask a daily question. Form a habit to ask a daily question. Have I progressed more than yesterday? My dear friends, if there is one thing that is going to give you an edge, is by asking this one question: have I progressed more than yesterday? You can then extend it further, that what are the progression points which I have accomplished in this one particular day. So have this in place. Come up with some bite-sized learning. Do something which is better than what you did yesterday. You need to keep on evolving, not changing, but evolving. And the level of evolvement can only come if you have a self-check on what you do. So let's move to the second step, which is mismatch drivers. Now, what do I mean by mismatch drivers? I don't know if you have come across a situation, but imagine this, that you're trying to unscrew this one particular screw which has been fitted in. But if you're using a screwdriver, which is slightly larger or very small, do you think you'll be able to unscrew that particular screw? Well, the obvious answer is, of course, you're not going to be able to do that. And what happens is, if you reflect in organizations, what really happens? Just pay close attention that there are very many people in many departments who have the competence, but they are not in the right places. And in some occasions, you also have those who are draggers. What do I mean by draggers? The people who are not productive, who are not the drivers, but they drag the productivity of the organization. So you need to be very much aware of this. And this is one of the fundamental flaws which I've realized in organization. So let's go into the solution. And I would like you to write these down. The first one is mending. What do I mean by mending? Well, the first thing you can do is coach the draggers. You need to be a mentor. In my experience, I have coached very many corporates and I've coached very many executives and very many leaders and tried to mend the whole situation in line and in alignment with the expectation. So you need to coach the draggers. And in any case, if you do require any help, please do get in touch with me. I will be sharing my details at the end of this presentation. But I need you to work on this. Your pipeline is uh, the most important, and you need to work on making sure that there is a flawless uh, set of productivity taking place, which is at its optimal level. So you need to keep on coaching and mentoring the draggers. The second thing that you can do is bridge the gap. You need to keep on finding the coordinates. What do I mean by that? You need to keep on identifying what is really working in your organization and what is not really working in your organization. You need to form what I consider to be a mind map or a grid or a company a map, something which is going to help you, and then have some sort of a heat map where you can say that green means that you're fine with these particular departments, but amber or red means that there is work needed to be done. Now, why do you need to bridge this gap? Because at the end of the day, you need to have all coordinates working together. So that is very important. Identifying and making sure that you link all these coordinates. And finally, the trump card. What do I mean by the trump card? If you observe maybe a chess game, or if you observe one of these games, you will notice that sometimes what happens is that there's always some sort of a plan in place. So there's always a strategy in place. So what do you really need to do? You need to have a backup. I repeat, you need to have the right backup to fill in and ensure that particular slot is working perfectly. Because you don't want mismatched drivers in your organization. You want matched drivers, which is going to add value and exponential value in the whole pipeline. So you need to make sure that the drivers completely match. So make sure you have a trump card. In other words, you have this succession or you have this contingency plan, whatever it is for you, you need to make sure you have this trump card in place. And here's a quote again, which I've done. Purify the value pipeline with care and attention. Care and attention in everything that you do is extremely crucial. It is extremely important. So you need to purify the value pipeline, and you can do this with care and attention. Because what are you doing? You are trying to sort of alter the whole behavior pattern to suit the need for the organization. So work towards this particular trigger. So let's move to the third step, which is swimming shallow. Now, let me give you an example here. A few years ago, my sister and my brother-in-law had gone for a holiday to this one particular beach area, and the tide was low at that particular time, and they went deeper inside the ocean because the tide was low, and they found this one particular place which was like a sanctuary. It was like, it was a hump sort of place, and they just sat and they were enjoying the breeze, and the weather was fantastic. In fact, it was overcast, so it was really beautiful. It was really nice, but they were a bit far from the shore. And while they were talking, they didn't realize that the tide started slowly creeping in. And it so happened that a couple of hours later, the tide was very high and the hump was starting to get covered as well. So my brother in law and my sister decided to head back to the shore. But as they tried going, the water had already sort of exceeded their height, and it started becoming a bit difficult. Now my brother-in-law is a very good swimmer, and he started swimming, but instead of heading towards the shore, he was heading towards another direction altogether because of the deep currents. Now, it was very difficult for him, and there was a huge struggle. He could not go back to the shore, but it was pretty scary for them. And finally, anyway, they did get help because a motorboat came and sort of took them. But my point here is, if you realize and reflect in organization what really happens. Sometimes you think you are going in the right direction, but you need to look into what the depth is. So here are some of the solutions that you need to do. Because what happens is you might be thinking you are getting the results, yet there are many elements which need to be looked into, and they may be only short term results which you are looking into. So here's the solution you need to look into: deep dive. What do I mean by deep dive? Now, in step two, I talked about coordinates. Again, you need to link all coordinates. You need to look at the holistic picture. You need to find out exactly what the deepest current in your organization is and how that elevates towards an altitude, a higher altitude. So, in other words, you're linking 50,000 feet to ground level. So you need to deep deep dive in your organization. The second point is watching from the tower. Now this is the biggest strength you can get, which means you have to keep observing. You need to keep on paying that attention, and you need to keep on observing at all standpoints, and only then will you be able to pick up these currents and make sure that the positioning of the whole organization from a sustainable standpoint is positive. And the third point is leaning forward. What do I mean by leaning forward? You need to focus on key elements. Now, if you notice that, again, going back into this swimming and the ocean, if a motorboat is passing by, what happens? I mean, motorboat going, you will note that it can go any direction because of the power it has. Similarly, in organizations, you need to focus on key elements because this is what is going to gain leverage. So you need leverage in your organization. Work on the leverage points, work on the core focus, focus on the core elements, and make a difference in your organization. This is so powerful, this is so important, yet people ignore these basic points. So I hope so far you picked a few points and you made a few notes from these three steps which I was shared. Okay, so here's another quote from me. Immersion and linkage are key to effectiveness. I repeat, immersion and linkage are key to effectiveness. Always use a wider lens before deciding. Any choice that you make, any alternates that you are thinking through, always look at it with a wider lens and see the impact it has in your decisions. So immerse and link, and if you can do this with intensity and consistency, I can guarantee you your organization will be leaner, your revenues will be higher, you will see a profound impact to the growth and upscale of your organization. It depends on what your size of your organization is, but just this one thing that you can do is going to just be it's going to I wouldn't be surprised if your organization grows 50%. I have been blessed to see a sales team grow almost about uh, 10 times. In fact, what the target was before I joined was 10 times more in 12 months time. So for you, a growth of 20% or 40% or 50% is possible. You need to stretch. Make sure you use a coach wherever possible, but make sure you stretch through. Make sure the immersion is there, ensure that the linkages are there. Let's move forward to step number 4, which is missing the mark. Now, if you look at archery, for example, and the arrow missing the bullseye, or if you look at the dartboard and somebody aiming at the bullseye but missing the mark, similarly in organization, what happens? You have what is called unmet expectations. Unmet expectations means that the expectations were not met. So if you had asked for an apple and you got a peach or you got a plum or you got a grape, what does that mean? That means that you missed the mark. So you have to be careful. And this is what happens in organizations as well. So, what are some of the solutions? The first one, and this is one of my favorites, it's called UCT. What do I mean by UCT? UCT stands for Unified Correlated Targets. Write it down. Unified Correlated Targets. At each and every stage of your value pipeline, identify all the coordinates and make sure that you have those maximum output points. For example, if you've got a machine which is producing 100 widgets or 100 whatever it is, and the other one has to produce, say, 50 out of the 100, but it only produces 30, it means there's a drag in the value pipeline. Unified correlated targets maximizes the whole process completely throughout the value pipeline. So identify, sit back and identify what is this unified correlated targets. And I've used this even in service industries. It works with the production or whatever manufacturing entities as well as the service industry. But you need to be extremely specific. You need to make sure that the productivity is at a maximized level. The second one, knowledge. Now, what do I mean by knowledge? Now, you must be having policies and procedures which are current, obviously. So, you need to make sure that people are oriented, people understand what are some of the guidelines, what are some of the thresholds, what the company is all about, because that is where the intertwining relation, business relation, is in place. So, you need to make sure that if an orientation is needed, it would be appropriate for everybody to uh, be on the same page. But here's what organizations are doing, and this is what I encourage my clients. And what I tell them is, why don't you just shoot out a small video of 10 minutes? So, 10-minute video or 5-minute video, but it sort of gives the deeper insight of the whole company. It gives the full blueprint of the organization, and then they can drill down and read all the policies and procedures of the organization. This in itself has such a resonating effect that it is like, it sticks very well with people. So embed and embrace these messages and the blueprint of your organization so people know exactly how not to miss the mark, because you want to make sure that they meet expectations at all times. And finally, feedback. Keep receiving reports. You need to make sure at all standpoints you receive the reports, you closely pay attention to these reports because these are game changing. This is exactly where the progression, the accomplishment points come in place. So you need to work on the timelines and the intervals depending on the size and complexity of your organization. But at the end of the day, this is extremely powerful. So you need to work on ensuring that feedback is being coming at the right intervals, but at the same time, you are paying the attention with immersion and linking it with the rest of the coordinates. So here's another quote: have a set of core activities and be consistent. You need to make sure that you have this core activities, key elements in place, but you need to have that consistency in place. Set a standard of excellence. I believe that everything works with a standard of excellence. So you need to work on a standard of excellence. Now, let's move forward to the next one, which is step number 5: watering the fire. I remember a couple of decades ago, I'd gone with some friends of mine. It was really cold at this one particular place. It was a resort. And what happened is we sort of had this small fire so that we could keep ourselves sort of warm. Unfortunately, it started raining and the fire died down. So this was one of those things which really happened. But how can I reflect this to organization, and what does this really mean for organization? Write this down: execution, lack of execution. You go into a meeting, there's so much productive discussion, there's so much of um, it's all gung ho. Everybody is like energized to make sure that it's there. And if it is a strategy, they'll say yes, let's go for it. If it's an investment, they'll say yeah, let's do this. But as soon as they leave the meeting, the follow up is not there, and it sort of dies down. This is what I mean, that watering the fire, this is one of the biggest problems organizations have, which is lack of execution. So what do you need? And these are some of the solutions which I would like you to um, think of. The first one: clean site. So what do I mean by clean site? Again, you need to have clear written instructions as well as timelines. So if something needs to be done, it has to be done by XYZ. It has to be there. So you need to make sure that you have um, clean site in place. Everybody must understand the importance of timing. Everybody must understand what he or she needs to be done. So you need to make sure there is a clean site in place. The second is maintain altitude. What do I mean by maintain altitude? You need to make sure that you keep on monitoring at all stages. This is where people lack. This is why, and this is what my opinion is that when people say that I didn't know about this, or when we look at the scandals happening and the CEOs denying that they had any knowledge of something happening, the reason is there is lack of transparency, there is lack of monitoring. So you need to make sure that each and every stage there is monitoring taking place. The level of interest has to be same at all levels, executive level as well as management level. That is the power of effective delegation. So you must make sure that there is this constant altitude maintained. So both of you are heightened, the whole team is heightened to make sure that you achieve this productivity. And I'll give you one word which is going to be very powerful in this particular context, which is alert. You need to be alert at all times. Sharpness. You need to have that sharpness in place as well. And the third one is watch out. What do I mean by watch out? You need to be prepared for road bumps. Hurdles are going to come, problems are going to come. You'll see external conditions changing. You will see it's never a smooth run. Sometimes it is. I'm not saying it's never a smooth run, but sometimes you do get a smooth run. But at times you try to put in timelines, you have a strategy in place, you try achieving something, but you don't get there. And you need to make sure that you are completely prepared. So be prepared for the road bumps in your organization. So I've got a different quote this time. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. This is by Confucius. So, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. You need to keep on walking the talk. You need to be keeping on going further and forging forward. Let's move forward to step number 6. No compass reading. Now, imagine a person in a jungle, not knowing where he or she needs to head towards because there's no compass reading. And that could be a very, very dangerous place. And in organizations, you will note that at times the board or the executives are directionless. They don't have a sense of having the right direction. One's going east, one is going west, one is going northwest. The direction, the point is not in place. So you need to identify and have that direction in place. And in many instances, it's also forgotten and ignored because they feel it is not important. Yet it is one of the foundations. It is one of those level of foundations which is required. So what are the solutions? One of the solution is handshake. Now, what do I mean by handshake? If you have a weak handshake, um, you're not gonna, you won't feel it. But if you have a strong handshake, what happens? It's powerful. So you need to have clear outcome in place, what I call SPOD, specific point of destination. So make sure you have that concise sentence requirement in place. How do you translate that into result? So have that firm handshake. Work on that handshake. The second one, link. You must focus on results. What has happened is I've seen executives and directors in the past, they keep on firefighting, they keep on micromanaging. They are so much looking within the organization that that link towards that result is not in place. And you're not going to get that if your vibrations, if your reflections, if that vision is not powerful enough within yourself to really make it happen. So please make sure you need to link everything to the outcome or the result, whatever the result is. It could include positioning your organization, it could include branding, it, excuse me, it could include a stream of heightened increase of profits, whatever it is, but you need to have that linkage in place. And finally, alignment. Now, my dear friends, you must be having corporate values. Some of the values include integrity, transparency, clarity, simplicity, but yet people don't get it. They just think these are just simple words. A simple orientation. Spend 1 hour, spend 2 hours with all your executives and make sure that there is value alignment. There is so much power, there is so much strength in this 2 hour investment. You cannot imagine what it can do to the organization. And if need be, please get in touch with us, and we would be happy. Incidentally, I'm sorry to mention, I should have mentioned that Catherine Parson, who's my business associate, is also part of this particular webinar. I apologize, she's with us, and if anything, she's another powerhouse of this thought process. So, if anything, please do get in touch with Catherine. I'll be even sharing some information with you on Catherine as well, and her background is in it's more to do with executive search, and she's really powerful, and we both have teamed up to to make a difference and see the transformation of organizations. So Catherine Parson, she's a business associate with us, and she's on this particular call. So alignment, please, if you need any help, please get in touch with us, and we do a 1 day workshop which is going to be a mind changer, where we will also construct the whole corporate vision and lots of other things. Now let me share with you one more quote: drive with a clear windscreen and make a profound impact in your journey. Now if you're in a car and if you don't have a clean windscreen, you're going to struggle to sort of go through any patch. You'll even slow down just trying to make sure that you make some sense of where the road path is or how you're going. But if you have a clear windscreen, you're going with confidence, you're going with the audacity to make a difference, you're going with authenticity. So, in order to accelerate your journey of growth, you need to have a clear windscreen. Now, before I go to step number 7, I just want to mention that we are conducting a 1 day immersion executive level workshop called Progression to Excellence. This is life changing as well as organizational transformation. This is not simple stuff. This is going to be really, really deep diving. So we are going to cover personal excellence, where I'll be even talking about what is called a think time. We will also be having breakout sessions. We will have a small chunk of time. We will do small sessions which are going to these are going to be transformational. These are going to be the paradigm shift for you. It's going to be the game changer. Is going to give you that edge over your competitors or anybody else. So that's the first session. The second one is overcoming organizational challenges in Morocco. What are some of the core challenges? We know the deep patterns and the challenges out there, and we are going to give you solutions. We are going to give you hardcore solutions which are going to make an impact to your organization, and these are going to accelerate growth. Again, we are going to do breakout sessions. We are going to have a small case study. We will have pros and cons, and it's going to be not only engaging, it's going to be lively, it's going to be so powerful that it's in my opinion, this is it's a one-off investment, but I mean the payoff will last you for years and years to come. And finally, the futuristic thinker. Tell me about a program which has the futuristic thinker. I'll be talking about altered intelligence, a different level of heightened intelligence, and I will give you examples, real examples of how this can really help and what it can really mean, not only to your business environment, but also your personal surroundings, as far as your community is concerned, as far as your family is concerned, as far as your networking is concerned. This is going to be really, really powerful. This particular workshop is a 1 day workshop taking place on the 25th November 2015. It's going to be at Sofitel, Casablanca, and you don't want to miss this. I promise you, this is going to be a game changer. So please make sure you attend this. This is going to change completely. It's going to change the face of how operations are done, but making a positive, profound impact. So you need to contact Catherine Parson at principalselection.com. Catherine Parson at principalselection.com. And if you do have any questions or any burning issues, please get in touch with her, and we will go through all that you require, and we will also include that. You'll have an opportunity to meet me, discuss your problems with me, interact. We will be together for the whole day, and we'll ensure that whatever your challenges are you overcome these particular challenges. So I urge you to attend this 1 day world class event, which is a one off event, but it's going to be a game changer. So let's move to step number 7, the last one, which is the dark room. Now imagine you walking in a room where there's no light and it is night. You're going to stumble. Now, this is what happens in organizations. There are blind spots. What do I mean by blind spots? There are some things which are not properly looked through, and these are the stumbling blocks in your organization. And I'll give you an example from a boardroom perspective. That in one particular case, what was happening is, whenever we used to meet for meetings, there was this one particular person who was very vocal. What do I mean? He was an influence to the rest of all of us, and he used to speak very well. He was a good communicator. But when it came to execution, he was not really executing, and we thought that we could all rely on him, or rather the board thought they could rely on him. But he was more or less like a sleeper when it came out of the meeting. So he was just shining out in the meeting, but his execution was very weak. So you need to be careful, and that's just one example. There are many other examples similar to this. What are the solutions? You need to widen your sight. You need to ask questions. You need to find out exactly what measures have been taken when somebody talks about something. What are the telltale signs? So you need to pick up those signals, which is going to be different. So you need to be curious at all times. So make sure that you widen your sight. The other one is what else. What do I mean by what else? What else is, ask pertinent questions, keep on probing deeper, look into what else you can really do to shed light in the darkness if there is any. So you need to make sure that you keep on asking the right questions. And the third one, up the mountain. What do I mean by up the mountain? Clarify your priorities. Keep on climbing the mountain to get more clarity and have a wider vision of the horizon. As you climb up the mountain, you'll start seeing more and more. So you need to make sure there is clarity in your priorities and you are working towards a cleaner perspective as you move forward. So, my dear friends, I hope this has helped you. I want to leave one parting um, quote, which is deepen attention in order to gain an advantage over your competitors. You need to deepen attention. Deepen attention means you need to immerse. So, immerse yourself in order to gain an advantage over your competitors. My dear friends, I do hope this 7 steps leading to corporate excellence is going to help you, it's going to serve you, it's going to make a bit of a difference, if not more. But I hope that you've made a few notes, and I do hope some of these values are going to make a profound impact to what you are doing. If you want more, if you want some additional tools, and if you want to accelerate your journey, I urge you once again, come for the workshop. This is a 1 day workshop where we are going to share the best of the best. We are going to give you examples. We are going to just come up with your hardest problems, and I'm there to help you out. So I look forward to seeing you in Morocco, and I wish you well. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you. Thank you.